What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're reacting to a big ESPN segment covering major NFL coaching news, including new head coaches in Miami and Tennessee and a shocking move by the Buffalo Bills. A lot of changes, a lot of opinions, and plenty to react to. Before we get into it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Today, Graziano, take us through it, starting in Miami.
Miami Dolphins have a new head coach. His name is Jeff Hafley. He has spent the last 2 years as the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. He does have head coaching experience, but it was in college with Boston College, specifically prior to that Packers job. Hafley getting a 5-year deal to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, who just hired John Eric Sullivan from the Packers last week to be their GM and have a lot of interesting offseason decisions to make. The Tennessee Titans have a new head coach as well, finalizing a deal to hire former Jets head coach and current 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh as their next head coach. This news broke overnight after the college game ended, and they are working toward finalizing a deal today. Saleh and Matt Nagy were the final two candidates. They ended up picking Saleh after having, obviously, a good interview with him yesterday. And the day started with surprising news out of Buffalo. The Buffalo Bills firing longtime head coach Sean McDermott after 9 seasons with the team. McDermott making the playoffs in 8 of those 9 seasons, but never advancing to the Super Bowl in spite of having quarterback Josh Allen. And obviously the Bills have made the decision to move forward with someone different at head coach in the hopes that they can find someone to elevate them to those heights.
That was an announcement that came during our show. Shefty broke the news during our show yesterday, and so we reacted to that. News that came not long thereafter when the Bills announced it was that they have elevated their general manager, Brandon Beane, who now is basically in total control of everything and will hire the coach and gained power, basically got a promotion out of all of this. And I personally found that puzzling because I thought there were a lot of mistakes made on that side of it there. Yeah. But that surprised me. So one way or another, reaction to McDermott being out, reaction to the way they've now restructured and how it goes from here.
Shocked by both, in all honesty. I didn't think that either one, I didn't think that McDermott would be fired, and I definitely didn't think Beane would be elevated through this firing. And so when you look at McDermott, I understand the frustration, right? You don't get a Super Bowl, you have Josh Allen, so there can always be arguments made about playoff wins and losses and what they're capable of doing. We saw what happened with Tomlin stepping down. We saw Harbaugh, right? These owners are getting frustrated that they're not going to that tipping point of the Super Bowl. But the part for me, everybody talked about this is Josh Allen's, it's his best chance. It wasn't his best team. Like, they did not have the team. They didn't have the receivers. And if you look at, like, Beane's track record, I'm not sure why all of a sudden he gets elevated. I think he's drafted 2 Pro Bowlers.
Since Allen.
Okay, so this guy, and I said it before, Josh Allen's got to be Superman pretty much week in and week out for this team to win. Unfortunately, he didn't play well. But for Beane's elevation, that was the most shocking part for me.
When you have a player like Josh Allen, it's going to raise the expectations of everyone around you. So I think while I'm a little bit surprised they made this move, I understand them making a move. The shocking thing, I think your point is about the Brandon Beane being elevated, and it's a story as old as the NFL, is the general manager.
Right away, this feels like one of those days where the NFL just flips everything upside down. Miami hiring Jeff Hafley feels like a safe but interesting move, especially since they're clearly going with another first-time NFL head coach. The Titans hiring Robert Saleh makes sense from a defensive and culture standpoint, but it also feels risky considering how things ended with the Jets. And honestly, the Bills firing Sean McDermott is the most surprising part so far.
Managers tend to have a better relationship with ownership. When there's a disappointment or a series of disappointments, someone has to pay. Normally, the general manager is there talking to the owner more often than the coach, and that decision is made. We saw Liam Cohen last year wouldn't take the Jags job unless there were changes made at that spot. You see, every time we have this come around, owner or coaches are very concerned about the ownership structure and who's going to be in the front office.
And that's why it took John Harbaugh so long to get his deal done with the Giants until he made sure that he was dealing directly with ownership and not with the level in between with Joe Shane, who remains but obviously isn't in charge of him. So does the elevation of Brandon Beane, in your mind, make the Bills coaching? Look, on its face, you have a chance to coach Josh Allen. That's the best job that could possibly come open in the NFL. But does this make it less appealing?
I think it does. And I think in the sense of you wonder when they move on from Sean McDermott, do you already have an idea of who you want to be next? Joe Brady's the offensive coordinator there. He's already been talked about as a head coach in NFL circles, has done interviews. So when you look at this and you say, all right, Brandon Beane's going to be elevated, you know he already has that relationship with Joe Brady. And I think on top of that, we're talking about this situation because of how good Josh Allen is. The fact that he has been with that offensive coordinator, they've had success as well. It almost makes sense to not allow Joe Brady to leave your building. You think about Liam Cohen with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was our offensive coordinator. He leaves to go to Jacksonville. Tampa Bay not having success. There was conversations about Todd Bowles. For Buffalo now, you move on from McDermott. Do you do that in order to elevate Joe Brady with the belief that he can win? You're only looking for 2 more wins from what Sean McDermott was doing.
What do we get a sense is going to be the deal there?
I think they're going to gather today and go over, put together their list of candidates and start, issuing the interview request. There's obviously a process and rules that have to be followed. You can't just elevate Joe Brady. So this will take a little bit of time. They're behind the 8 ball a little bit. Let's say they want to hire Vance Joseph from the Broncos or Davis Webb on Broncos staff. They can't talk to either one of those guys till next week, and that's only if the Broncos lose Sunday. If the Broncos were to win, then you can't talk to anybody on their team until after the Super Bowl. So the Buffalo Bills getting on this a couple weeks into the cycle does put them behind the 8 ball a little bit, unless the answer is going to be someone from their staff or someone from outside the organization.
The difference for me in the NFL and college is why are we hurrying? Like, we don't got to go recruit. Like, you know your team, right? Like, there's free agents that you know are going to come up. There's no – if you're an NFL team and Sean McDermott just came available, like, to hurry around and go sign guys and put coaches in places, like, take your time. Take a breath.
Especially if you're keeping the front office intact, because if they're going to be making these decisions either way, you would want a coach whose mindset you could – or whose thought process you could pick from.
Right.
The more they talk about Buffalo, the more confusing it feels. I understand being frustrated when you have Josh Allen and no Super Bowl, but it doesn't really feel like this roster was built to fully support him. What really stands out is Brandon Beane getting more power instead of less. That's the kind of move that makes you wonder who's really being held accountable in that building.
But it seems like Sean McDermott is going to be the decision maker. And with that extra power becomes, I think, the extra level of accountability. I don't think the next firing, if there is one, is going to be the coach. They're going to say, we've given you the leeway to go through a couple of coaches, and now it's on you.
And then the name Bill Belichick came up here yesterday from Rex Ryan, who has been telling me, I can tell you right now, privately, he has been talking about that for years. He thinks they are enamored of Bill Belichick in Buffalo.
Well, he certainly would know. Like he worked there, obviously, and with this ownership group. I would find it surprising because of what's going on with Belichick the last couple of years. I mean, in the last 3 NFL coach hiring cycles, he's interviewed with one team that didn't hire him, has since hired another coach and didn't interview him this time around. I think the bloom is off there a little bit, but it only takes one infatuated owner, so I guess we'll see.
We'll keep a close eye on that situation as we go. More NFL with this crew, but we're going back to the title.
Monday, full of major coaching news in the NFL. That carousel continuing to spin. Shortly after Hurricane Cam Ward saw his team lose to the Hoosiers, Adam Schefter reporting his Titans are finalizing a deal with 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh to become their new head coach. Dolphins hiring former Packers DC Jeff Hafley, the hire continuing to follow a common trend under owner Stephen Ross. Since he took over the team in 2009, Hafley becoming the 5th straight first-time head coach hire for Miami. And the day started with the Bills deciding to move on from head coach Sean McDermott. McDermott 106-58 in a win-loss record as Bills head coach, but his tenure notably including none trips to the Super Bowl with Josh Allen as his quarterback.
Got to get to the Super Bowl if you got Superman under center. We got a couple Supermen right now. Time for Overreaction Tuesday. It's Dan Graziano, Jeff Saturday. Gentlemen, good morning to you. Let's start, Dan. The Bills firing Sean McDermott. Is that an overreaction or not an overreaction, the move in general?
It's an overreaction. I mean, this is a guy that had you in the playoffs 8 of the last 9 years, and prior to his arrival, you hadn't been to the playoffs in 17 straight years. Hey, this man built something there that has been very successful. If you're going to fire people based on postseason results, there's not going to be too many people keeping jobs in this league because last time I checked, only one team wins it every year, and there's a whole lot of variance in the way that ball bounces in the postseason.
Yeah, I'll say an overreaction as well here, fellas. More for me is the timing of this thing. I felt like and everybody made a big deal. This is Josh Allen's best opportunity and blah, blah. I didn't feel like the roster really fell into that, right? I didn't think that his receiving core was up to snuff.
When they bring up how hard it is to keep a job in the NFL without Super Bowl appearances, it really shows how unfair the league can be. Only one team wins every year, and McDermott consistently had the Bills in the playoffs. Firing him feels more like impatience than logic, especially when you look at how dominant teams like the Chiefs have been during this stretch.
I didn't think that even their defense played nearly well enough that it was going to be. Now, Allen had a bad day in the playoff game that ultimately cost him, but getting there, that was the most shocking part for me. And to Dan's point, this guy has totally flipped this culture in that building and what he's done. So I was a bit surprised that it happened the way it did. And by the way, to Dan's point, Andy Reid and Mahomes have been pretty good in this run, so no Super Bowl victories is kind of a tough matchup when you look at those two.
Dan, it's going to be a marquee job, obviously, because some of those pieces that coach will be acquiring. Who are some of the names we should be keeping an eye out for Buffalo?
Yeah, I think Buffalo's going to get together today and start sorting that out, sending out some interview requests. So right now, the names you heard yesterday around the league are mainly speculative. Davis Webb is an up-and-coming head coach prospect who's the quarterback's coach of the Broncos. They can't even talk to him till next week, and that's otherwise they can't talk to him till after the Super Bowl. Do they bring in a first-time head coach and a veteran staff around him in a move like that? Or do you look at someone like Mike McCarthy, who's out there and wants to coach again, who's had success as a head coach and has that experience? They'll start combing through their list here in the next couple of days, but right now they're getting on it. They're just getting on it late.
All right, I was looking, honestly, I was looking at Saturday as though he was going to follow up and give us, I like so-and-so. All right.
Should I mention Jeff? Jeff has head coach experience.
Jeff does have head coach experience.
Breaking news on Sports.
Go. He goes, let's talk about the offensive line. Dan, Broncos are done without Bo Nix. Overreaction or not an overreaction?
It's not an overreaction because I think what's done here is their Super Bowl chances. Could you imagine a situation in which Sean Payton schemes up a good Jarrett Stidham game plan and the Patriots play poorly and Denver steals the AFC Championship game at home? Yes. Could you imagine that happening and then 2 weeks later them doing the same thing and winning the Super Bowl? I think that's an awful lot to ask in combination with each other. I think it's a shame for the Broncos, but I do think their best chance to win it all went out the window with Bo Nix's ankle.
Yeah, I agree with this. It's not an overreaction. And Bo Nix played well the other day, and what he's done for the team and the belief that you can tell the team has in him, whether it's with his legs or with his arm, there's just something about that chemistry. This has nothing to do with Stidham, but to Dan's point, I agree. Right. Catching the Patriots on a week, maybe, but somebody gets 3 weeks to prepare. And let's not forget, man, Stidham, it's not like he's played a ton of football, right. And so this isn't, I hear a lot of people compare it to like Foles and to Hostetler, all this kind of stuff, but I mean, the amount of ball that you played is significantly different in the situation, so I just don't see the Super Bowl happening.
Less than a handful of starts for Jarrett Stidham, who was drafted by those Patriots in 2019.
Overall, this ESPN discussion really shows how fast things change in the NFL and how impatient teams can be even when they're winning. Coaching hires aren't just about talent. They're about power, timing, and expectations. Some of these moves might work out, but others already feel like they could backfire if results don't come quickly. At the end of the day, this is why the NFL never stops being entertaining, even in the offseason. There's always drama, big decisions, and opinions flying everywhere. Let me know what you think about these coaching changes in the comments. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NFL reactions.